Hello, good evening. I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live, coming to you live here from World Star Studios at Amsterdam Shopping Center. And with me this evening, I have attorney at law, Mr. Reynold Groeneveldt, and also the Ombudsman, Dr. Nilda Arduin. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having us.
It's good to have you all here because this evening we're going to speak about a project that I know is dear to your heart, Mr. Groeneveldt. That's a new law school for St. Martin.
Yep, exactly.
So tell us about.
Yes, we are busy developing some plans. Last time I was here on your program, I announced that we are going to be coming out to the public soon and that we are going to be conducting a survey. And with me tonight, I'm fortunate and happy to have the Ombudsman, Dr. Arduin, who is a very good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, we studied together years ago. We studied when we were doing our law studies. We did that together with Mr. Gaston Bell. And some time ago, we formed a group, and the group consists of Dr. Arduin, Gaston Bell, Mavis Brooks Salmon, and Patricia Phillips, and myself. And we came together and formed a group, and we started planning. We contacted the university here in St. Martin. We also contacted the university on Aruba. We contacted the university on Curacao. And then recently, when Minister Gibson became interim minister of justice, he approached us and said, yes, it's a good idea. He's been thinking about the same thing for years, and he wants to work along with us and help us to get it off the ground, and he has been doing that. The committee, we had like an unofficial ad hoc committee. He recently formalized the committee by ministerial decree. And last week we had a meeting of the committee where I was appointed as the chairman of the committee and Dr. Arduin as the vice chair. And Patricia Phillips is the secretary, treasurer of the committee. So we are formally now established, and we are developing plans to set up the law school here at the university.
All right, and Dr. Arduin?
I think what I can add to what Mr. Groeneveldt said, as he explained, the Minister of Justice, the acting then, but now as Minister of Finance, he appointed us officially as a committee. Added to the committee is Judge Bob Witt, the president of the Constitutional Court, because over the years we generated a lot of interest for a project like this, a project to have a law school here on St. Martin. So the committee consists of 6 people, and one of our first plans is to make a feasibility study. And from there, we will take off because, as Mr. Groeneveldt said, we are, in fact, for years working on this because we studied together. We studied law as our second profession in the 80s. And under very difficult circumstances, that's a history by itself. In the 90s, the University of the Netherlands Antilles facilitated St. Martin a second time, where a group of students, I think about 10 persons, acquired their bachelors. However, ever since we are talking about going about really having something more sustainable here on St. Martin. Therefore, we are very happy to have a collaboration with the Minister of Finance and also Judge Bob Witt. He is situated in Trinidad, however. But all these entities, all these persons have been thinking about establishing that. So I think with all hands on deck, and by that ministerial decree, it opens the doors for us to knock on the doors of universities of the University of Curaçao, Aruba, and in the Netherlands to collaborate with us.
Let me ask you all this. What's the benefit of this to the average person in Zimbabwe who's aspiring to become a lawyer? Anyone want to ask?
Yes. For anyone aspiring to become a lawyer, this will give them the opportunity to study law, become a lawyer if they want, because not everyone who studies law want to become a lawyer. Some people want to have that knowledge and maybe work in the private sector and not work per se as a lawyer, going to courts or doing litigation, work as a consultant. You can also work at a notary office. You can work at the bank. But we think the country is going to benefit tremendously from this. We are a young country, and we need knowledgeable people. We need people who know the law in government, out of government, in parliament. And myself and my colleague here and some others, we studied years ago. That's like, I've been working now as a lawyer for about 20 years. And we are reaching the age of retirement. So, and we know that there are some young lawyers still in the field, but we need more local people to get involved and get into this profession, because it's going to benefit the functioning of government, the functioning of parliament, business, and the community as a whole. Because lately, a lot of people has become interested, and you hear them talk about the Constitution, you hear them talk about national decrees, you hear them talk about Article 59 and Article 33. And that is very good. I applaud that. But at the same time, I also would applaud that if more people become interested in really knowing the law, knowing their rights, and that will make society as a whole function much better, I believe.
I definitely want to emphasize on the fact that if we look at more developed countries, not only in the political arena, but also in the private area, most business people, most politicians have a legal background. Knowledge is power, because your question was, what would a person benefit if they study law? And apart from for general information for yourself, knowing your rights and obligations, I must say I was very happy over the weekend when two persons of over 60 were very excited about the fact, because they said they want to study law. And that is so important. I want to emphasize the fact that oftentimes one only look at when you study law, you have to become a litigating lawyer, you can have to become a judge or a prosecutor. One is, for example, often complaining that we don't have our own judges and prosecutors. However, to become one, first of all, you have to do is study law. And then one forgets that not only in Parliament and in the ministers need legal backgrounds, or at least legal advisors, the whole civil service. Most lawyers that are advisors to government come from abroad. And so it is so important, not only on a personal basis, but on a community basis, that we have lawyers. Just imagine, we studied in the 80s, 90s. I finished my law study in 89. if we take from there to now, if every 3, 4, 5 years we were having at least 3 lawyers graduating, local lawyers graduating, you can imagine how many local lawyers we would have had now. And that means how more progressive our society could have been. So the benefit is both personal and for the community.
But if you want to study law, because it's the different areas of law, right?
Yeah.
And this school, when it opens up, will it be designed for all the different branches of law or just one?
All the different branches of law. When you would have completed the training, you will get the official title of meester, as we call it in Dutch, the small MR, which the first 3 years is like a bachelor, and then there's 1 year that you will get what is equivalent to the master's degree in law. In Dutch, the meester, in the French system, the maître title. And from there, I remember when I completed my studies, they told me, now you know most of the areas of law. If you want to become a lawyer, you should go and work with a law firm. And I went and I worked 3 years as a kind of internship. And that would qualify you to become a lawyer. Or you can do additional, you can go back and study additional training, get additional training if you want to become a notary or you want to specialize in other areas. But you will be what we would call a jurist or juris.
What's that title where they have LLM behind it? What's that?
That's the title that you will get when you finish the training that we are talking about in law school.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the meestertitel in Dutch, and in English they use the LLM. I think it's
the masters.
The masters, yeah.
It's
The M is for masters and the L is for licenciado something. Yeah.
But I think what, of course, St. Martin cannot carry really a law school by itself.
Yeah. Oh.
So the point is we are going to have to work with and under university abroad because accreditation is very important. We are looking at different options. For example, there is, and nowadays when you study law, the world is very intertwined with each other. So we are looking at a comparative law study, whereby you learn something about British law, maybe American law, French law. St. Martin is very strategically positioned in the Caribbean. So knowing something about other legal systems is important. For example, when I did my PhD on international timesharing, it was very important that I knew something about British, American, and other legal systems. So that package, we are looking at it. And from there, and it all depends what we can negotiate with other universities to present a fitting package for St. Martin, because whatever package it will be, we want the graduates to be widely versed, that they have various possibilities, but also to go to court here or to sit on the bench here. And so the package that will be offered has to be very well scrutinized. That's why I indicated at the beginning that the first step is doing a proper feasibility study, seeing what is available, what is feasible for St. Martin, etc., etc.
What? Yeah.
Also, if I may, it's very important also for the university. Our university has to be given the opportunity to grow and offer possibilities to our people to become more proficient to study on a tertiary level. Also, it will benefit students, you know, that they don't necessarily have to leave the island and go away, but that they can study here. But also, I see this for the future of the university as an area of growth. And of course, there are other areas as well where our university have to grow and get the recognition that it deserves, and also the support and the financing from government as well as from the private sector. And once we do that, we will see, you know, the benefits that how the community will be able to benefit by having more professionals, homegrown. We have persons that come from abroad, but they don't always stay. After a couple of years, they leave and go. But if we have our own local persons, we can continue to build for the future. They can contribute. I've been able to contribute, my colleague here and some of the others, because of the legal background and the legal knowledge that we were able to acquire. And we want to make this possible for others as well, so that they get the same opportunity, so that in return they can also contribute to our country.
What about, you know, you hear a lot of people saying that it is difficult, some try and they give up to study law, and that is that a negative way to look at it, because so many people are saying that it's difficult and they don't want to get involved in that study?
I believe that it has been said all the time. However, if I may say, it's a myth. One sees the law study as something boring, as something difficult. However, if you are interested to achieve something, if you are interested to acquire knowledge, no matter what study you are doing, you will do it because you will develop a passion for it. And I believe that in the campaign that we set out to promote the interest, we hope that we can bring over to the wider community both students, people coming out of the benches, the school benches, as well as second timers or third timers. We are second timers because most of us, we came out of the educational field, and while we were working in the educational field, we studied law. And the necessity, I hope that that will also awaken people. Nowadays, St. Martin is an island, but we are still globally connected. We, as citizens, don't only have to know our rights, but our obligations as well. St. Martin is small. Opportunities are here, but also abroad. You can live here and work, you know, on an international level. As we progress as a country, it is important that we have enough legal minds, not only to service St. Martin locally, but in the long run, we will have to, not only in the Caribbean, but on international organizations, have representatives. For example, I function as the president of the Caribbean Ombudsman Association. So I have a role in the Caribbean. I'm on the board of the International Ombudsman Institute. That means I have a role internationally. And like that, we're gonna need enough people to fill those roles. Another issue that is very important, where my colleagues started to talk about, when the university, the USM here on St. Martin is strategically situated in the Caribbean. So if we offer partly a study of comparative law, that means we can also attract students of other islands to start studying law here. The concept that we want to develop is therefore with a vision for not only St. Martin, but the wider community, because I can imagine that people will start saying, but in the long run, would we still need a law school here? if we do it right, we can become a very focal point in the Caribbean pertaining to law.
The reason why I asked that question, I've heard it so often, is many years ago, say about 6 years ago, I was at a parent meeting for students going to Holland. And one of the students who was also assisting and speaking with the students leaving to go to Holland described the study of law, and it was scary, very scary. It's like, oh, the books are like this thick. You're gonna do this. I mean, I saw the reaction on some of the students' faces at that time. At that same time, my eldest daughter was sitting there because she was going to Holland to study law. And I think it was the wrong advice to give young people.
Yeah.
And this is not coming from, this is coming from within the organization that was responsible for sending students to Holland. So I think we're going to have to change our whole attitude because that could scare the hell out of a young person.
Yeah. Well, my experience is that the study is not difficult. One subject in the beginning I know I had problems with is economics was part of it, and later on they relax that subject because it's not really one of the main subjects in law. You have to be disciplined, that is for sure, and you have to make up your mind to do a lot of reading, understanding, and writing, and be able to do research and express yourself. But to say that it is boring, absolutely not. And it is so vast. The law is so vast. And one of our advantages, and Dr. Arduin was just alluding to that also, is our knowledge of languages. Because we had the opportunity not so long to see Dr. Arduin at the Constitutional Court, and also her other, I don't want to say opponent, but the other party represented by Gibson Jr. And then there was also a Dutch lawyer that works with government. But I was so happy and so proud to see them, performing in English, and when necessary, they could switch to the Dutch. And I think that is one of our assets and our advantages that we should build on, that we can study law, but we need to know the Dutch. We need to have a good background in the Dutch. And then once we do that, you can transfer it to English.
So let me ask you this then now, because that's important. This law school, is it going to be in English or Dutch?
Yes, well, I will answer that first, and then Dr. Arduin is going to answer for sure. It's going to be in Dutch, but we are looking and we are exploring the possibility how we can incorporate English as much as possible. But you have to know the Dutch language to be able to study the law and to perform as a lawyer, as an advisor, because most of the literature, the jurisprudence, the decisions from the courts and so are in Dutch. And technologically we are advancing, but we have not reached that stage yet where we can take a Dutch book and have Google translated in English and get an accurate translation. So you need to know Dutch, and once you know the Dutch and you also know English, you can transfer. I found myself this week last week then, today's Monday, in the French Civil Code, and there again shows you that languages are important. Because of my little knowledge of French, I could read it and understand and know how to apply it. So at the law school that we are looking to set up, we are thinking about comparative study, where you get training in American law, in French law, in British law, in European law. And there is where the knowledge of various languages is going to come in handy. And who knows, maybe next 10, 15 years, we can have lawyers that are trained here in St. Martin, also able to practice maybe on the French side in Guadeloupe, or maybe in the British Islands or in the United States. You see, so, but those are things for the future, but we have to lay the foundation now.
And I think if I can add to that, I definitely agree, of course, that Dutch is going to be a very important component because our laws are still in Dutch. However, if we look at the comparative study section that we want to venture into, we know that in the Netherlands, many studies nowadays are in English because they are globalizing as well. So that should not be a deterrent. Whether you are first in Dutch or not, I believe that for the level, because of course the entry requirements to start studying law, there are requirements because you have to have a basic education of VWO. If you don't have a VWO, you're going to have to do a special test to be admitted. But
you're going to do that also here in St. Martin?
We are looking at it, of course,
because...
They're
going to implement most people. It's going to be very difficult.
Yes, so of course all those things are being looked at as we do a feasibility study. That's why the feasibility study that we are commissioning to an expert to assist with this is very important. And I want to tie in the language barrier that some people have to the issue that you brought forward before, that many students have been deterred from studying law because their peers themselves are saying, yes, but it is difficult, etc., etc. I believe that the format of the law study nowadays compared to 30 years ago, when we were studying law, has dramatically changed. Most studies have changed. And Mr. Gibbes, I'm saying this publicly on your program today. I am willing, and I'm sure all the members of the committee will be most willing to be invited by secondary schools to promote the legal study, because I would think that it is very sad that students would be deterred to study law because they have a preconceived notion that they are not capable. And I certainly, I did not only do my master's, but I did my PhD. And I did it in the Netherlands. And from St. Martin, sitting on St. Martin, working here and doing it. So I will be most willing to go to the secondary schools and promote it. Take away that notion that it is too difficult, that it's not attainable. I definitely disagree with the notion that law is too difficult for our students. We have very intelligent students, we have intelligent people. The course that we are starting is not only for school leavers, people that leave the school benches, but people that are in the field already. So those people also have to be encouraged to study law.
Yeah, and if I may refer to the results, the achievement of the group of students that recently went to Holland with the moot court, you know, and I think that is tremendous, and I would like to commend them and commend their coaches and the firm that assisted them. And definitely, if I go back to the discussion these last months about national decree and the Constitution and so, and I think no one found that boring. I think everybody is still intrigued with those discussions, and And those discussions have not yet been finalized or formalized.
Let me tell you something, sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Thank God we don't have many locals as lawyers, because the things that have been happening in the last 3-4 months on this island, okay, they would not have accepted it the way it's being accepted right now.
Yeah.
And I tell you that from experience.
But that's why it's important to know the law, and important to have a law school on the island, because a lot of those issues that are being debated, if you have a law school, the first thing you do is you put your students to do research and write a paper, come up with the facts. We organize debates, we organize lectures, they write in the paper, and that way the general public will get accurate legal information, and not always, because sometimes I listen to some of the persons that come forward and they tend to give their own interpretation, their own feeling about certain things, which is not always accurate. So definitely having the law school is a must.
Dr. Arduin, you were saying something during the commercial break to me about law and the cultural aspect and so forth. I don't know if you want to explain that quite a bit more.
Absolutely. But before that, let me also give congrats to the students of the moot court. I was not only proud of their performance, but I was mostly pleased to hear that several of them now want to study law.
Really?
And laws have to function in a community.
Hold that thought, if we please. I want to
Yes.
just give priority. That's one moment,
Okay.
please. Oral Gibbes live on caller. Hello.
Good night, Mr. Orgid,
Good night.
and your two guests you have there on your show.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Calling is Dr. Arundel.
Arduin.
Dr. Arduin, how are you doing?
I've
Oh,
been following
Arundel.
the program,
Okay.
and I've heard him talking about the Constitutional Court and about a law school. My question is, who built, who financed the Constitutional Court and the law school? That's question number one. Maybe another question is a personal question. Who financed your study for law? Was it constitutional?
Pardon? You hung, your phone dropped out there. You there, caller?
Yes, I'm here. I tried to change my direction.
Oh, I didn't hear the second part, the second question that you asked.
The second question might probably be personal. For instance, who financed their study
Okay.
for law in Curacao? Was it Country St. Martin, or was it in the Netherlands Antilles, or was it personal financing? And last but least, I can recall that I've been to court in St. Martin 2 times already, and I won the cases 2 times. I'm not going to call a lawyer. And up to today, I haven't got my justice. So I had my doubts about your Constitutional Court and because I figure that since we are under the Dutch crown, we should have a parliamentary democracy. But you're constantly saying, we. Now, I don't know if you really represent the people of St. Martin. I gather that we are only intellectuals, which means you don't have a constituent. You don't have people who backing you. You know, because people don't even understand what you mean and what you're doing.
Okay, Doctor. And I want to keep it a little short so that I can respond to your question, and then so they'll respond. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arundel. All right. I don't know who wants to.
Yeah, Dr.
Okay.
Arduin will.
Let me say about finances. Who financed our study? When we started to study in '83, St. Martin was part of the Netherlands Antilles. And in fact, we had to facilitate our own study. We did not study with study financing. However, being part of the Netherlands Antilles, the university accommodated St. Martin in one way or other, where the professors were coming here and the students were paying their own way, to call it like that. Of course, if we are talking about instituting a law school now, yes, it's not going to be free. It has to be financed. As we are making a feasibility study, we also discussed how that will have to work. We are looking at ways more in the private sector to support in this project. One thing we indicated already that so many entities are on board. Government is on board, the private sector is on board, because people start realizing that it is very important. And being part of this community, and when we talk about we talk about all of us. Not having a constituent, but being part of this community. And of course, in the survey that we are conducting presently, and we encourage people to fill out a survey, we have sent the survey to schools, to businesses, to the justice chain, and to government, for us to get the idea what people really think, how much people are willing to contribute towards their own education, to their progress, their development. And based on the information that we're getting from the survey, and based on the information that we are gathering from negotiating with the different universities, we will have to determine what it will cost a person to study law. But definitely a person that will take up the law study will have to contribute something towards it, just like we did 30 years ago.
It's an investment in yourself and in your education, and also in your future, and also that of the country. So of course we are going to try and keep the costs as low as possible, so that also don't be a deterrent, because we want to encourage as many persons as possible to take part. So the language, as we said, don't let that be a deterrent, and also the cost should not be a deterrent. But it's an investment in yourself for the future.
And of course, it's the beginning. And we are trying to have everything, to organize it in such a way that it is sustainable, that it is not a one-time thing like 33 years ago when we studied law, and there was no real follow-up continuity. We are looking at continuity. And in the long run, of course, we will have to see whether students coming out of school could get a scholarship. However, those are bridges we have to cross in the future. But with like anything else, when you want to start something, you can sit back and say, we will do it till, we will start when everything is in place. However, we firmly believe that it's not only necessary, but it is possible.
Yeah. Early in the program, when I asked you all what was the benefit, that was one of the things I wanted to hear from you all, was in terms of the benefit of studying law in St. Martin is the cost to the student.
Yeah.
Because if you had to go to Holland, it's a lot more money.
Absolutely.
And I think it will help a lot of people who can't afford or who don't qualify in terms of the funding from the Dutch government, that they can do it here in St. Martin. I think that's a huge benefit to local.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just the fact that, let's say a person that has a job, wants to study law, wants to develop him or herself, they won't leave their job to go to Holland for 4 or 5 years to study law. If you can do it here next to your job, you are you will pick it. Yes, you will pick it up much easier. Yeah. Going back to something I was saying just before the phone call, which we of course thank the caller for. one have to remember, what are laws? Laws are rules and regulations to organize a society. And oftentimes one forget that. A lot of people think that laws are just rules and regulations and it's hard to remember them and to learn them. However, if we look at the law as what it is, rules and regulations to organize a society, every household have rules and regulations. Every school have rules and regulations. Every business have rules and regulations. So the law are the rules, overall rules and regulations of a community. That means that those rules and regulations have to relate to the people of the community, the culture. And because people cannot remember laws by heart, not even lawyers or judges. We refer to law books to see, hey, what is the rule really? However, that means that having to use advisors coming from abroad all the time, you can get a disconnect because the interpretation, the cultural flavor of a certain law might be different interpreted here or somewhere else. So having our own, it's very important.
All right, let's take a call for your Oral Gibbs Live. You're on caller. Hello. You're on live call.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
certainly happy to see and hear your two guests because they are people with a vision. They have always been making their input in the community as such on different levels during cultural functions, union seminars, and so on. The other thing is, it could be an asset eventually to St. Martin also getting its own judges because it is within the realm of law. And provided that youngsters have the initiative and the concern and appetite to become a judge, why not? A person that also has to be thanked is Mr. Richard Gibson. He has taken time out of his busy time and he has written a law book as such for the war on sale. He too has been very instrumental as far as this matter is concerned. I'm very happy that it is you two persons and Richard Gibson that have the initiative, and somewhere in between Ralph Richardson perhaps. Nevertheless, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. And definitely what you said there, that in the future we should look forward to having our own judges. I subscribe to that 100%. I hope to see judges and prosecutors and police officers in the higher echelons that are lawyers, and definitely that we have a local team of lawyers supporting our government, supporting our parliament, supporting our business industry. That I think will put St. Martin on a very high level of functioning economically, administratively as well. And that is the groundwork that we're trying to lay now.
I wanted to help my audience understand what you said a while ago there, because that's important. Take, for example, in the Netherlands, you have police departments where there are lawyers that are also working there. You don't have that right now in St. Martin that I know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned police departments. Oftentimes when one speaks about law, one refers to the court, prosecutors, and lawyers, and stop there. However, what is very important for the people to understand that lawyers are needed in each and every sector of the society. School boards are very well equipped if they have a lawyer on their team. Everybody knows the high cost of lawyers. So investing, if a bank invests, for example, in one or two of their employees to study law, that will help the bank a long way. Even if those lawyers that work in a bank would not litigate, they can better advise the bank from within. However, if they have a problem that they have to go to court, the understanding of the procedure and the law in collaboration with a lawyer that will litigate in court will be much better. So it is very important that everybody understand it is not only one sector, but all sectors will benefit.
School is something that's needed, but you know, I remember before St. Martin got a separate status, and we heard a lot. We always talking about we need lawyers, we need lawyers. I kind of want to wonder if that's really, really the case. We really need lawyers, because apparently, you know, St. Martin is the only place in the former Nelson cities where everybody else go and study law, and the doors are wide open for them. But still, mostly for our own people, it's not that easy to get the foot back in their own island where they were born.
Yeah, we want to make it easier for them by offering them the opportunity to study here. Recently, I was looking through the brochure that the courthouse issues. There are about 28 law firms, establishments here on the island. And for a small island like St. Martin, and these are litigating lawyers, there's about almost 70. And when you look at the report from the Court of Justice, and if you take the percentage of cases that are done here on St. Martin, and you compare that to Curacao and Aruba, that are much bigger countries than us, we do a lot of litigation here, and that's only the Bali. And I'm not talking about what Dr. Arduin was referring to, people that would work at the bank, people that could work at the police, people that would work with government, people that would work in their own business, for instance. So definitely we need lawyers, and if we going to look towards the future, we cannot depend on attracting lawyers from elsewhere. We have to develop our own local batch of lawyers that understand the culture of St. Martin and help develop that legal culture and that legal jurisprudence that is specific to St. Martin. And I think that is very important going forward and growing as a country.
And then knowledge is power. as we stated at the beginning, or at least I stated at the beginning, in many countries, not only developed countries, but when I look in the Caribbean, more and more you start seeing that people that go into politics have a legal background. Because if you are a legislator, you want to know more about the law because you are, in fact, making the laws. So there is much room for legal knowledge.
You have the MPs now going to your law school.
Sorry?
So you have the members of parliament now going to law school.
I would
That
hope
would,
so.
and
would hope to see them.
we really would hope so,
Yeah.
because as one of the callers, Mr. Lake, indicated, and I thank him for the congratulations, because it's not only Mr. Groeneveldt and myself and Mr. Gibson, but the soil is ripe, yeah, to plant this seed. There are so many people on the island now that are acknowledging the importance of having our own homegrown legal minds. Maybe we should get away from the word stating lawyers, because that is narrowing people into a certain direction. Maybe we should more start promoting legal minds, because that will express a wider group than just people going to court. We have to get away from the fact that studying law means going on the bench, being a prosecutor, being a lawyer. No, we need legal minds.
But you know, only 30% of people who go to law school go to the courts. The remaining 70% do not.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that is something that having as we're having this discussion, I will definitely bear it in mind that we start talking about developing legal minds through this law course, because maybe a person want to study law part-time, not necessarily want to get his or her master's, but want to get some more legal background for personal development. You're not going to leave your job to go to Curacao, Aruba, or the Netherlands to study law a year just because you want to get that information.
Other times, I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds, Dr. Arduin.
I thank you so very much, Mr. Gibbs, for giving us this opportunity. I am really grateful that there is fertile soil. We thank Mr. Gibson to really come on board with us. And together we are trying to make this a reality.
Okay, thank you. And
yes, I would also like to thank you for this opportunity. And I would like to encourage interested persons to fill out the survey forms. They can be had at the Office of the Ombudsman, for instance. They can also go to the university and ask. We have disseminated a lot of the forms throughout government and other business agencies, also at the law firms. And with that information, that will help us in the feasibility study and the planning. And we hope forward later this year to be able to start with our law school.
Now, should they fill it in the next 2-3 weeks or within the next month?
We have them out since last week. We asking for them to be returned by the 15th. So we have like one more week that they can fill out the form and return them to a contact person or at the ombudsman or at the university.
All right. So I want to thank you both for coming in and wish you all much success.
Thank
you so very much.
Thank you. And that's it for now. I'll see you next time. Till then, good night. Take care. Bye.